I have with me the Daily Graphic, and they have a really nice headline story for the Pope. Adieu. I know you are the French person. I hope I got the pronunciation correct. Adieu. The people's adieu. Are you sure?
Yeah. Adieu.
Oh, it is A-D-I-E, but it's a French word, so you can help me pronounce it at home.
Adieu.
Yes, the people's Pope, they call him. Story by Michael Quay comes with a photograph of the late Pope Francis, the Holy Father. And I watched the movie Conclave, and oh my God, it was.
Did you watch it recently, or had you already watched it?
I watched it recently.
Okay.
I watched it recently.
Okay.
You know.
Okay.
It was an interesting watch, really an interesting watch. So an editorial really, or a piece on the late Pope Francis, who is to be buried today at the Santa Maria la Major Basilica in Rome. He was 88 at the time of death. Back page story on the Daily Graphic Weekend Special. Black satellites poised for redemption at AFCON. Coach Desmond Ofe has a huge role to play in the Black satellite success. The story comes along with his photograph and the lineup of the team who are already camping in Egypt for the Under-20 FIFA World Cup. No, for the Under-20 Africa Cup of Nations tournament in Egypt.
Okay, so I have the Mirror, Ghana's most popular weekend paper. Some of the stories you'll find. From 3 coffins to 1, Pope Francis redefines papal burial. Alice Mamaga Mwako, a mother worth celebrating. Diet, daily routine, key to glowing skin. That's according to skin experts. The switch is on. Ghana's passport goes chip embedded. 3 days more to that. On the back page, Zito faces first test as Kotoko hosts Aduana FC in tricky clash. At The Spectator, your weekend companion, swallowed by the sea. Man narrowly escapes death, accused of stealing 19 fowls. A dog. Timeless fashion for women. Sikaman Palaver on page 8. And at the back page of The Spectator, Spectator Sports, overcoming sponsorship fatigue in sports. You have Mr. Kofi Adams there. And then Adriana can cause more problems for Kotoko. Those are some of the stories you'll find on the weekend papers. Do you have any websites?
No, yes, I have the citynewsroom.com online portal. Big story here. Pope Francis was a good man with a good soul. President John Dramani Mahama speaking there. CJ's suspension will resist attempts by Mahama to politicize the judiciary. That's coming in from the MPP. Also here, suspect in 1.3 million Momo robbery remanded by the Nalerigu court. Also, Kufaro not responsible for MPP's 2024 electoral defeat. Osman Masawudu speaking there. He was on Point Blank yesterday on Eyewitness News with Selom Adonu. Also here, Ghana holds memorial mass for the late Pope Francis at the Holy Spirit Cathedral. Were you in attendance?
Yes,
Really?
I was.
Wow. You didn't tell me. So
You would have gone with me.
I would have Makakwe.
Oh, so now why are you busy? You were doing big issue production.
Oh.
I saw you making calls and this one is coming and this one is not coming.
I'm very competent at my job and I'm able to work, under pressure and remotely. So I could have still gone with you.
Right. Next time.
We have to do the funeral. It's a big funeral. You have to give him a good send-off. So, can't be doing that. Yes, so Ghana holds memorial mass for late Pope Francis at Holy Spirit Cathedral. Data Protection Commission probes MTN Ghana over potential cyber security breach. Tamale Teaching Hospital to fully resume services after health minister meeting. That's coming in from Dr. Tia. Management is weak. Dagbon Envoy criticizes the Tamale Teaching Hospital leadership over doctor strike. Benis Anwa Warbeck appointed acting executive secretary of the NLC. In the Ashanti region, NDC executives accused military officers of targeting their supporters, and also Syracuse Bapuro appointed as acting judicial secretary. Some other stories. I'll not renew Zoom Lion contracts in its current state. YEA boss Malik Basentali. And also GRA targets digital economy to boost tax revenue. And that's also a big story on the City Newsroom online portal.
I'm on ChannelOneNews.com, Channel 1, the digit 1. Some of the stories you'll find there. After Chief Justice, EC Chair is next, NPP warns. Will not rest until CJ's unlawful suspension is withdrawn, Krobia Sante says so. NPP inherited crippling debts from Mahama's incompetent government, Osman Masawudu says so. Petitions against CJ's removal baseless, hollow, that's according to Nana B of the NPP. Minority demands immediate reinstatement of suspended Chief Justice. Other trending stories on ChannelOneNews.com. Takoradi residents call on government to fix Nkrumah Sino Hydro interchange. MOH launches mobile app for sale of health training admission forms. Vladimir stop Trump on deadly Russian strikes on Kiev. Atlantic Lithium appeals to government to help save Ghana's first lithium mine. Etibrukusu commends government for Galamsey fight, calls on chiefs to support. USAID shutdown, government counts on zipline for supply chain resilience. Dismissal of Tamale Teaching Hospital CEO, lawful and justified, that's according to Austin Game. Data Protection Commission probes MTN Ghana customer data breach finally. Ashanti region, PURC receives 422 complaints against ECG Ghana Water Limited in Q1. 365 staff implicated in bank fraud in 2024. Support government to reform public sector, Smith Graham to labor unions. Government to develop indigenous framework for managing natural resources. That's according to President Mahama.
Let me take you to the graphic.com.gh, the online portal of the Daily Graphic newspaper. Some interesting stories here. UK deports 43 immigration offenders to Ghana and Nigeria. I'll bring you excerpts of that story. Also here, MTN Group confirms hack assures customers core system remains resolute. New military service commanders sworn into office by President John Dramani Mahama. The National Signals Bureau ex-boss, Kwabena Duboahin and wife, have sued the Attorney General over defamation. To some other stories here, President Mahama provides updates on the health of Vice President Jane Nana Opoku Agyeman and Health Minister Kwabena Minta Akando appeals to striking Tamale doctors to come to the negotiation table. And finally, Health Ministry upgrades mobile app to sell admission forms to health training institutions. So these are the big stories on Graphic Online. Also, together with a story around the FIC probing Akonta Mining and Wontumi, we've been told that his accounts have been frozen. And Old Tafo MP, Vincent Eko Asifua, he says, halt suspension of the CJ. He's been praying the Supreme Court. So these are some of the big stories on graphiconline.com. I'm
on GhanaWeekend.com. Some of the stories there. I won't leave my husband even if he cheats, Cynthia Morrison. That's so. Episode in his quest set to electrify Germany as 2025 European tour kicks off. I was expelled from Pope John SHS over music ambitions. That's according to D Black. UG students to struggle to find accommodation as semester approaches. List of notable journalists appointed to key roles under Mahama's government. Where's your appointment coming? Or you're not part?
Charlie, that list is causing kind of a stare. You know, it's not even funny anymore.
Yeah.
I tweeted it last night, and up until this morning, my phone is still buzzing.
Oh, wow. People are commenting. Should read out some of the comments. Paul of P Square celebrates brother Jude Okoye's return from jail. 2 Baba's traditional wedding dates with Natasha Osawuru leaks online. UEW student who committed suicide laid to rest. That boy needs some lashes. Aisha Modi launches fierce attacks on Stonebwoy over alleged mistreatment. Amaaraze, The Angel You Don't Know breaks records as Ghana's most streamed album. National service personnel to undergo basic military training starting August 3. Sam George, Kafui Danku respond to Bimbo Ademoye's piracy claims, and a bit about the Kwewu Easter festivities, not just about enjoyment, but building businesses.
I know today is a big day for the Catholic Church or the Church Universal. Some foreign headline stories before we delve into some of the big stories we brought you already. The Catholic Church says goodbye. That's how CNN chose to capture it. And they have a live updates, tab where you can get all the stories from the Vatican City as the church bids a final farewell to Pope Francis. So some other stories, crowds gather for Pope Francis' funeral mass at Vatican. They also have an editorial on why Pope Francis isn't being buried in the Vatican. And the Vatican has asked visitors not to take selfies with the late Pope. To some other stories in the U.S., Doge, the Department of Government Efficiency being run by Elon Musk, is building a massive database to speed up deportation. And some other stories here. There's an editorial on the first 100 days of Trump with regards to the performance of his economy. Briefly, let me just run with you what's on the BBC. Not so different, still very hard on the Pope Francis funeral, which is underway in Rome. World leaders join crowds in Rome for Pope Francis' funeral. Comes with a photograph of former U.S. President Joe Biden and his wife, Dr. Jill Biden. Some other stories here. UK border officers saw a couple behaving oddly with a baby and uncovered a mystery. There's an analysis of the Kremlin as Putin sits down with Trump's deal maker, and some other local UK-related stories. But yeah, the big story is that the Pope goes home today, and all foreign, online tabloids, newspapers are heavy on the coverage of the Pope's funeral. Can we delve into some of the big stories?
Yes.
I wanted to start off with a daily graphic or graphic.com online story on the state of our vice president. Every now and then people keep asking, how's she doing? The last we were told officially was that she was taking a rest, right? After all manner of rumors were all over the place regarding the state of her health. But speaking at the launch of the nationwide sanitary pad distribution initiative on Thursday, President Mahama spoke or gave an update on the health of the vice president. Excerpt of the story reads, President John Dramani Mahama has reassured the public that Vice President Professor Nana Jeno-Poku-Agyeman is recovering well and remains in good spirits following a recent period of medical attention and rest. Speaking at the official launch of the government's nationwide sanitary pad distribution initiative on Thursday, April 24, 2025, President Mahama addressed the Vice President's absence from the event and provided an update on her health status. The quote says, I wish to extend the greetings of Jane Nana Opoku-Agyeman to all of you. I spoke to her yesterday and I told her we were going to miss her at this event because this is a program that is very dear to her, the president said. She said I should say hello to all of you and to say she's recuperating and catching a bit of rest. She's very well and will soon join us to continue to prosecute the reset agenda. So a bit of background, Professor Opoku-Agyeman reportedly took ill on Friday, March 28th, and was admitted to the University of Ghana Medical Center the following day for medical evaluation. Her condition sparked public concern, given her central role in the current administration. And it goes on and on and on about the updates we got from the minister responsible for government communications, Felix Ofosu-Kwakye. So, our vice president is in good health and very soon should be joining us. I hope he really puts to rest all the unnecessary rumors. You go on TikTok and you see what somebody is saying. It's as though the person was in the same flight. I'm like, why do we do this, right? Why are we so eager to wish? It's so unfortunate.
Evil on someone.
So unfortunate.
It's sad, actually. Very sad. I want to do the Pope story from 3 coffins to 1, and this is the mirror. So normally our popes are buried in 3 coffins, but
What's the reason behind that?
I'll tell you about it in a bit. And Pope Francis opted to be buried in just 1 coffin, which is usually not the norm. So a bit of that story reads, the head of the Catholic Church and sovereign of Vatican City, Pope Francis, we all know he passed away Monday, April 21. He died at the age of 88 at his residence in the Casa Santa Marta within the Vatican. The announcement was made by Cardinal Kevin Farrell. Let me skip all these and come to, traditionally, a pope is buried between the 4th and 6th day after his death, following a funeral mass led by the Dean of the College of Cardinals. The burial ritual is rich in symbolism, particularly the use of the ritual of 3 coffins. The Pope's body is placed first in a cypress wood coffin, then a lead coffin, and finally an outer coffin made of elm. The innermost casket is made of cypress wood, signifying humility, and the Pope's shared humanity. And the lead coffin, that's the next. The cypress coffin is placed in a lead casket, which is hermetically sealed. This coffin traditionally bears engravings of the Pope's name, pontificate, dates, and a skull and crossbones, memento mori, symbolizing the inevitability of death. It also contains significant papal documents and the broken seal of office placed there by the Carmelengo. Then the final coffin is the elm coffin, which is made of elm, a noble and durable wood, symbolizing the dignity of the papacy, and it is sealed with golden nails and tied with violet silk cords bearing the wax seals of the Carmelengo and the Cardinal Dean. However, in 2024, Pope Francis made significant revisions to the Ordo Ex Esquerem Romani Pontifice, the liturgical book governing papal funerals. These changes reflected his commitment to humility and pastoral simplicity. The revised rites eliminated the use of multiple coffins and the skull and crossbones imagery. Instead, the Pope is now buried in a single wooden coffin lined with zinc, devoid of ornate symbols. Additionally, the confirmation of death now takes place in a chapel rather than the room where the Pope dies, and his body is placed in the coffin immediately afterwards. According to the Master of Apostolic Ceremonies, Archbishop Diego Ravelli, Pope Francis had requested simplified rites focused on proclaiming the Church's faith in the resurrection. The renewed rite seeks to emphasize even more that the funeral of the Roman pontiff is that of a pastor and disciple of Christ, not of a powerful person of this world. And so he has opted for simpler funerals.
I read elsewhere that he took a vow of poverty, right?
Yes.
The poverty vow. So which means that, in essence, he really can't, accumulate wealth. And the job he had as the head of the Catholic Church, with an estimated value in assets of 10 to 15 billion, penciled to have a annual salary of about 300,000 euros yearly. It was interesting that, according to multiple accounts and reports, from the Vatican City News and elsewhere, he had less than $100 in his account due to the vow of poverty. And there was this really popular, story on social media. I didn't personally verify, but according to reports, seemed to be true, of somebody who gifted him a Lamborghini. He blessed it and he sold it and he gave the money
out.
That speaks to the kind of man, right?
That he was, yeah.
And we read that.
But sometimes, really, what would he have used the money for? Everything is provided for him. So what exactly would he have used that money for? For his family.
What don't we do for politicians in this country? From clothing allowance to taking care of their flight tickets. Some of them even have entertainment allowance. Did we not go through the?
I remember.
Did we not go through the salary? Benefits.
Yeah.
The remunerations.
Some board chair, it was a board chair or managing director.
SIC.
SIC, yes.
SIC CEO, and that is even a company that is not doing well, right? That's like not even like the main deal. So imagine what the ministers are getting, or like some high-level government state agency.
Yeah.
But what do we still see with regards to the sheer greed and the thievery really that goes on? For me, it's interesting. It made me read a little bit more about the vow of poverty, you know, it's a religious thing actually, right? And for me, I really respect the role he played in trying to, you know, project that also, and ensure that, you know, human rights across the world were respected. You know, his attempts or his mediation efforts in bringing peace to Gaza for me was big. You know, even at the point of death, he kept emphasizing that he was speaking to Christians in Gaza, you know, religiously, even when his health was failing. And for me, that is a man that, you know, whose example we should follow. So we wish the Catholic Church well, you know, and
you know,
condolences to you as well. And you know,
oh, thank you.
I had Catholic training. So,
oh, you did?
Yeah, I've St. Teresa's for 9 years of my life.
Oh, you mean at school?
In school. So I've come to appreciate, you know,
the rights and traditions that we do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also the quality of the training.
You are welcome, by the way.
I've come to, but you have to do the funeral.
Oh, the funeral we do.
You have to have the local version.
This local. Oh, we had it last night.
Yeah, but you know, say you sorry it's nasi.
Ne ajeje nsa. And the ajeje di kokumasi.
Na, you know.
And kai how much than you may.
Maybe first 30 minutes. Maybe sukakra. You know, cry.
Opewo. Yeah, buado.
Oh yeah, that they will do the year armaments of.
But you know, well, actually at the Kokumase. But so this Pope Francis is also breaking tradition with where he's being buried. He's not being buried within the Vatican walls. He's opted to go to Santa Maria where he'll be buried. And then another interesting thing is that our very own Cardinal Turkson is in the race for, you know, to hopefully be the one of the.
I have a very controversial take on this, right?
Yeah, tell me about it.
Is it controversial? It depends on where you stand.
You don't think that
he would get it?
Yeah.
I think he's
a black
overly qualified to get it, right? And like I said, I watched the movie, so it's also messing with my mind. But it gives an indication of how the conclave, you know, the selection process for a new pope. My point is that for a black man to reach such heights, right, with regards to leadership positions in the church, becoming a cardinal, you sometimes need to work, not even sometimes, more often than not, you need to be 10 times better than everybody around you if you are black or marginalized to get to that level, right? So what Cardinal Turkson would have had to do to get there, the ordinary white priest would have had a rather smooth run to the place, right?
Yeah.
So in my view, it makes him 10 times qualified to become pope, right? But with all that we know around the politics of the selection process, right? You know, camps emerging, you know, regional blocks emerging. Now we are being told all of a sudden that for 40 years there's not been an Italian pope, right? And the Vatican, like, how is this happening?
There are lots of cardinals from Italy, by the way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, so with all that seems to be happening, right? You know, even the political spectrum, right? So how far right or far left are you, right? So for example, which pope is more open to issues around divorce, you know, around women participation in the curia, which is the central administration of the church, LGBTQ, you know, all of those things come to the fore, right? There are people who feel like the church should take a more traditional stance. Let's oppose this, right? You know, there was one pope.
Let's allow priests to marry.
Exactly. There was one pope who was on record to one cardinal who was on record to have said that in this life, LGBT persons belong in prisons, right? And in the afterlife, probably hell. You know, actually that was in the movie. That was in the movie. So, but there are people who hold such views, and there are others who are like, you know, it's not about the person, it's about what they commit. So bring the person in, let's bless their marriage, and let's try and preach against it's interesting.
When you mentioned that Cardinal Turkson has to do 10 times more, it reminded me of when Obama and his wife took office, and I think afterwards they granted an interview and they were saying that it fell upon them as the first black family they had to do 10 times more. They had to, because she said she always had to work, she had to be aware of certain choices that she made. If she picked a designer that was too expensive, they will talk about it. If her hairstyle was something, they'll talk about it. If it's not too expensive,
they'll say you're lowering the standards.
You're saying you're lowering the standards. So it's crazy.
It's just the world systems. Easy. And look at Obama and the last couple of presidents the US has had. You know, very few come close when it comes to sheer intellect, you know, even
With
look at
what Obama
the scandal train, for example, right? Every single president, from Biden and his son to Trump and his antics and all the things that we've seen around him, you know, he was almost scandal-free, right? And he speaks, I don't want to digress because some of us, we are Obama stans, but the point really is that for black people, for marginalized people, for women even, right? If a woman wants to become president in Ghana, you know, that's when you see, you know, you watch somebody and you don't believe him. Some of the things they think even around some of these things, right? So, shout outs to Cardinal Texan. I understand he speaks 8 different languages.
Yes, he does.
You know, some of them can't even
There was
speak.
a video of him going around saying Jesus Christo during a service, and people were like, "Oh, that's the funeral of the." That was not the funeral of the Pope. But
I've never seen that video.
I think it was a few years ago when he held mass.
By himself, he came under fire for his views around LGBTQ. You know, he came back to clarify his position, right? But that also speaks to, you know, for me, how also very political the church has become. Right. So
the conclave is very political, though. So until we see white smoke in the coming days,
is it white or black?
Praying.
White is when
a new pope has been chosen. Black is when the conclave has not come to an agreement. But yes, so.
But who would you like to see as new pope? They said there's some Tagal guy from the Philippines.
There's also an Argentinian.
But he went to Argentina. You know, the late was from Argentina.
Yeah,
I don't see it going back again.
You don't think so? Anything is possible. Anything is possible.
And there's also Cardinal Sarah.
There's Matteo Zuppi, also another cardinal.
He's Italian, I want to believe.
Yeah. Yeah.
They say Cardinal Sarah is very, very anti-LGBTQ, and you know, it excites the traditional base. You know, he's also black from Africa, and there's Cardinal Tago from the Philippines,
there's
where the church is growing.
Pietro Parolin, he's the Vatican secretary, if my mind.
The Secretary of State for the
Vatican secretary.
Vatican secretary.
Yeah. So there are a lot of people in the running, and we wish them all well. We'll be here watching for the white smoke.
Is it too late for someone like me to become a pope?
Please, please, please. We'll be right back with what's happening in town. Don't go away.